At 9:41 evening, I lifted a full glass pitcher from the refrigerator, held it for 3 seconds, and put it back. That tiny hesitation told me more about my nights than another list of superfoods ever had. I was about to repeat a habit that looked healthy in daylight and punished me after midnight. My problem was not lack of effort. I had built an enormous late smoothie from ingredients praised in men's health videos. Then I drank another glass of water because I had been told hydration was always better. I went to bed feeling virtuous and got up 3 times to urinate. At 83, I still keep a paper calendar, sharpen my own pencils, and walk to the corner shop when I need only 1 or 2 things. Those ordinary freedoms matter to me. A broken night makes each of them harder the next morning, so I stopped treating nighttime urination as a punchline. The visible frustration was the hallway walk. The deeper frustration was bargaining with my own evening. Should I drink less, eat more, ignore the urge, or accept that older men simply lose control of the night? The missing variable was not discipline, it was the difference between feeding a long-term pattern and loading the bladder for the next few hours. An enlarged prostate can squeeze the urethra, but nighttime urination can also involve bladder behavior, sleep problems, diabetes, medicines, fluid timing, or other conditions. A food can contribute nutrients to a pattern without acting like a treatment. To choose intelligently, I had to separate 3 things that online advice keeps blending together: prostate tissue, urinary symptoms, and the clock. Those broken nights do not stay in the hallway. They follow a man into the next day as lower energy, shorter patience, less confidence, and sometimes less willingness to be close. That is why an evening food question can carry more emotional weight than the plate itself. For 3 years, I slept 3 feet away from my wife, and it felt like 300 miles. She'd fall asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, feeling like a roommate in my own marriage. I thought something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year, while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. The 5 sensible foods are pumpkin seeds, cooked tomato, a plain soy food, berries, and broccoli, but none changes the prostate overnight, and the portion and timing matter more than a miracle claim. Think small serving, earlier in the evening, and part of a pattern rather than a 5-bowl challenge at bedtime. Here is the fair contract with the title. These are 5 foods to place intelligently across the evening, not 5 servings to pile beside the bed. Tomato and broccoli usually belong with dinner. Soy, berries, or pumpkin seeds can be a small later option when genuine hunger remains. The benefit comes from fitting the right food into the right moment while avoiding a late volume of food and liquid that defeats the purpose. Let us start with pumpkin seeds because they have the most direct human evidence on this list for urinary symptoms associated with benign prostate enlargement. In a 1-year randomized study, 1,431 men aged 50 to 80 received whole pumpkin seed, a pumpkin seed extract, or placebo. The whole seed group had a descriptively better symptom response than placebo, while the extract did not beat placebo on the primary response measure. That is interesting, but it is not a license to rewrite the result. The men used whole seed twice a day for 12 months. The study did not show a change during one night, did not prove that bedtime was special, and did not establish that seeds shrank the prostate. Symptoms and organ size are not the same outcome. My practical version is a small, unsalted portion, chewed slowly, and eaten early enough that it does not become a heavy late meal. Seeds bring calories, so the handful should not quietly grow into half a bag. If chewing is difficult, texture and choking risk matter more than the headline. The job of the seeds is not to sedate the bladder. Their job is to provide a compact food with the most relevant urinary symptom evidence on this particular list. A measured portion can work when a man wants something savory and would otherwise open chips or crackers. Men who must manage calories, sodium, swallowing, or digestive discomfort may need a different option or individualized guidance. The second food is cooked tomato. Tomatoes contain lycopene, a carotenoid studied in relation to prostate cancer and prostate tissue. Cooking tomato and eating it with some dietary fat can improve lycopene availability. Yet the National Cancer Institute's review describes mixed human findings. Some studies point favorably, others show no meaningful effect on PSA or prostate outcomes. That means cooked tomato belongs here as a normal food in a plant-forward diet, not as an overnight prostate treatment. A spoonful of unsalted tomato sauce with an earlier meal is different from a huge acidic bowl just before lying down. Men with reflux or bladder irritation may find late tomato uncomfortable. Your response is data, not a moral verdict. Tomato, therefore, has an earlier clock. Its best role may be in dinner with beans, vegetables, fish, or another ordinary meal, where it improves the pattern without creating a separate bedtime feeding event. If acidic foods repeatedly worsen urgency, burning, or reflux, forcing tomato at night does not demonstrate commitment. It only confuses a long-term nutrition question with immediate tolerance. The third is a plain soy food. This could be a small serving of unsweetened soy yogurt or a few pieces of tofu with dinner. Soy contains protein and isoflavones, and researchers have tested soy foods and concentrated isoflavones in men. Results for PSA and prostate-related biomarkers have not been consistent. A food serving is also not equivalent to a high-dose supplement used in a trial. The useful case for plain soy is simpler. It can replace a dessert high in added sugar or saturated fat while contributing protein. That substitution can support weight and metabolic health, which matter to the whole man. It does not justify telling a man that soy will reduce his prostate by morning. Plain is doing important work in that sentence. A heavily sweetened soy dessert changes the nutritional job, and a concentrated isoflavone capsule changes the exposure. A modest food serving can be practical for a man who is hungry after an early dinner, provided soy fits his allergies, digestion, kidney care plan, and medication guidance. The point is a tolerable food, not allegiance to one ingredient. The fourth food is berries. I use a modest portion, not a giant smoothie. Berries bring fiber and fit an overall pattern rich in fruits and vegetables. There is no convincing trial showing that a bowl of berries before bed changes BPH overnight. Their place in the list comes from diet quality and substitution, not a direct prostate claim. The distinction protects you. If berries replace cookies, the pattern changes in a useful direction. If they become a quart of blended liquid at 11 o'clock, the bladder may receive the part of the experiment you notice first. Berries are strongest here as a small, solid food choice and weakest as a giant late smoothie. A few spoonfuls with plain yogurt create a different fluid and calorie load from a blender jar. Their role is fiber, variety, and substitution within the overall diet. I would not describe them as acting directly on prostate tissue, because the evidence in this script does not establish that job. The fifth food is broccoli, or another cruciferous vegetable that you tolerate. Again, the evidence is about dietary patterns, observational signals, and biological questions, not a promised bedtime effect. A few cooked florets with dinner make more sense than a raw mountain after the kitchen should have closed. Gas, reflux, and comfort count. Broccoli is the clearest dinner food of the five. Cooking can make the portion easier to chew and tolerate, and placing it beside the main meal prevents it from becoming a bulky late challenge. Its contribution is vegetable variety and displacement of a less useful side dish. That is worthwhile, but it remains general dietary support rather than a direct BPH intervention. Now look at what all five have in common. They are foods, not concentrated oils, powders, or heroic supplement doses. They can displace less useful late-night choices, and they work best as pieces of a pattern repeated over time, not as 5 separate treatments competing for credit. The National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases is direct. Researchers have not found diet to cause or prevent BPH. It also notes that eating and drinking changes may lessen some symptoms. In particular, limiting how much you drink before bed and reducing alcohol and caffeine may reduce nighttime trips to the bathroom. That is why I would never turn this title into instructions to eat all 5 immediately before sleep. Before bed should mean in the evening, with enough time to notice fullness, reflux, and bladder load. If you are truly hungry, select one small option. If you are not hungry, there is no prize for manufacturing a snack. Here is my stack. First comes fluid timing. I hydrate across the day and taper later, within the plan my clinician considers appropriate. Men with heart failure, kidney disease, low blood pressure, or prescribed fluid instructions should follow individualized advice, not mine. Second comes a symptom log. For a week or two, I note the time of my last substantial drink, caffeine and alcohol, bedtime, how often I urinate, stream changes, urgency, and whether I actually wake because of the bladder or notice the bladder after waking. That distinction can help a clinician see a broader picture. Third comes evaluation. Trouble starting, a weak or interrupted stream, urgency, frequent urination, and incomplete emptying deserve discussion. Blood in the urine, fever, pain, inability to urinate, or severe lower abdominal discomfort needs prompt medical attention. Food should not delay that conversation. The threshold for asking about food timing should also be lower when a man has diabetes, kidney or heart disease, swallowing difficulty, unintended weight loss, severe reflux, food allergy, or instructions about potassium, protein, sodium, calories, or fluids. In those situations, the safest portion is not something a narrator can choose from a distance. A clinician or registered dietitian can help fit the evening plan to the condition already being managed. Prostate health also is not the same as prostate cancer screening. Decisions about PSA testing depend on age, health, family history, risk, and preferences. A tomato snack cannot tell you your PSA, and pumpkin seeds cannot rule out cancer. There is a sexual health connection, but it should be handled carefully. Poor sleep can reduce energy, patience, desire, and confidence. Some prostate and urinary conditions, as well as their treatments, can overlap with sexual concerns. That does not mean every erection change comes from the prostate. It means the whole picture deserves a respectful conversation instead of guesswork. Imagine the bladder as a night watchman. He cannot rebuild an entire building during one shift, but he can stop new messes from being carried through the door. The metaphor ends there. Your bladder is not a person, and food does not repair prostate tissue while you sleep. The point is that evening management can reduce avoidable load, while long-term care addresses long-term issues. I recently spent a quiet morning organizing old family photographs by year, standing at the dining table without that foggy irritation a shattered night gives me. I did not credit one seed or one vegetable. I credited a better managed evening and the fact that I finally stopped being embarrassed to discuss urinary symptoms. Consider Leon, a fictional composite, a retired school bus driver who prides himself on doing exactly what a health video says. He places 5 large bowls on the counter at 10 o'clock, seeds, tomato soup, soy yogurt, berries, and raw broccoli. Then he washes them down with 2 glasses of water. His first night is miserable. He wakes bloated, urinates repeatedly, and decides the foods failed. But the mistake was architectural. He treated 5 components of a long-term diet as a single late-night dose. Leon changes the experiment. He moves cooked tomato and broccoli into dinner. On nights when he is hungry later, he chooses one small option, perhaps plain soy yogurt with a few berries, or a measured portion of unsalted pumpkin seeds, and finishes fluids earlier. He keeps a log rather than relying on memory. Most important, Leon tells his clinician about the weak stream and urgency he had hidden for a year. He gets evaluated instead of assuming every nighttime trip is proof of prostate growth. The food pattern remains useful, but it no longer carries a job it cannot perform. That is the recovery of identity I care about. Leon is no longer the man negotiating with his bladder in the dark and blaming himself at sunrise. He is the man managing his night, collecting useful information, and making decisions with his eyes open. The complete stack is now clear. Choose one modest whole food option if hunger is real. Put the rest into dinner and the broader week. Limit late fluids, caffeine, and alcohol when appropriate. Track symptoms. Protect sleep. Maintain activity. Bring persistent changes to a clinician. Where do erections fit? Vascular health, metabolic health, sleep, nerves, hormones, medications, mood, and relationship context can all matter. A plant-forward pattern supports general health, but it does not let me promise sexual results from a bedtime snack. New or persistent erectile difficulty deserves assessment, especially alongside cardiovascular risks. I still enjoy all 5 foods. I simply stopped demanding that they perform during an 8-hour shift. Pumpkin seeds have a limited but relevant human symptom study. Tomato and soy have mixed prostate research. Berries and broccoli belong to a healthy pattern more than to a prostate prescription. That hierarchy is more useful than pretending every bowl has equal proof. At 83, protecting dignity often means replacing urgency with sequence. First, understand the symptom, then adjust what is safely adjustable, then get help for what requires evaluation. Food can participate in that sequence without wearing a white coat. Your erections don't disappear just because you got older. They fade when the systems behind them, blood flow, nitric oxide, hormones, energy, and recovery, slowly stop getting the support they need. Ignore that long enough, and it becomes harder to reverse. That's why I take this concentrated formula every morning. Not one ingredient trying to fix everything, but several working together to support circulation, energy, and drive from the inside out. It's a natural, doctor-backed protocol designed to support pathways your body already knows how to use. No prescription, nothing artificial. Stronger, present, confident again. And unlike the pills I tried, I didn't feel disconnected from my own body. No headaches, just steady, gradual change. My wife noticed before I even said a word. The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 foods already fits your evening and whether late fluids affect your sleep. Subscribe for more practical, evidence-aware conversations about men's health after 6.